heads up. I don't know when school is out today because we haven't gotten the schedule. So
We'll see, I
I
guess.
might yet again have a child coming through the door. But I think she'll be alone. And then, um, yeah, on that note, my phone might ring too. Where's my phone? Okay,
Let's
let's
just get started and be done with it
let's just
quickly,
get started.
right?
Let's YOLO.
Welcome to Slow and Steady, the podcast where you get to follow along as we build products in public. Each episode gives you an honest peek into our lives as we share our struggles, our wins, and everything in between. I'm Benedict and I'm feeling okay.
And I'm Benedicta. Today is August 20th. This is episode number 227, and I'm feeling tired, or maybe more honestly, hungover.
There's just a slight difference between the two.
slight difference.
I mean, probably like when you're tired, it's most likely because of exhaustion, and when you're hungover, it's probably because you had a good evening.
I did have a good evening, so shout out to my childhood friend who defended her PhD in neoadjuvant treatment in pancreatic cancer or something like that.
Way above
She
our
did
heads.
it way above our heads. She did really well. She handled all the questions. She got a lot of praise from the opponents. And we had a wonderful dinner at her expense later in the evening, where they were generous
Nice.
with the wine. So bear with me by
Well,
rambling weird
congratulations.
normally.
She's not listening, is she?
I don't think she is a listener, but shout out nonetheless. We
But
might,
still,
we can clip this and put it on LinkedIn, and I'll tag her. She can get the
so it's good.
shout. So yeah, but what's been up in your life?
Not much, honestly. We just keep chugging along with the redesign and a couple of other small things. But yeah, we are that far into the process that we set a launch date. I think the official launch date is something like September 9th or so. As always, it's not super set in stone, but that's what we're aiming for. We have a go no go date set for September 1st. So we basically just it's crunch time now. Like finish everything up that we wanted to tackle, and then ship it September 9th or so, and I guess then keep tweaking it as usual because like you only find the things you forgot after you launch it, right? But it's time that it gets out the door. Honestly, at this point, I'm tired of it. Like it can, it's a fresh new redesign, but I'm already like, I don't, this old thing.
Yes,
So I guess that's a sign that that we're at a place where we can just ship it.
because
So
otherwise
yeah,
you get so tired of it, you want another redesign. You've been looking at
yeah,
it for
it's
so
all
long,
it's
you're like, oh, this is really good though. Maybe we should like make another redesign.
yeah, it's already starting to like questions like that are already starting to pop up where I'm like, like we could totally redo this section and make this change and that change, and in the end, it doesn't matter. The new version is already much better than the old one. Um, and I guess it's a new good like baseline to iterate upon and then improve in the future. So I think that's the thing we keep telling or have to keep telling ourselves, that this is not set in stone. Like we can always improve it. Like, but it's good enough. Let's ship it. So that's what we're aiming for right now. Um, we still have a few loose ends on the data layer because we decided to not only redo the redesign, but also, and I might have mentioned this before, change the way we fetch data from the server. So there's a lot of refactoring and changes happening on that front as well. But we figured this is a good opportunity because of the redesign, we have to test everything anyways. So we can just also test the data fetching in the process. yeah, so that's what we're currently wrapping up. And then for next week, we are planning to just do hands-on testing. I mean, sure, we have the automated test suite, but sometimes it misses stuff, right? And or test stuff, but it still looks ugly. So that's planned for next week, and then the week after we are planning to launch it. We also redoing the website in the process. I mentioned that, and we also got a new logo and like new color scheme. So there's still a lot of stuff that needs to happen. Also, just figuring out the social media platforms we need to update and what the formats are and all of that stuff. So
Who has the passwords?
Who has the password? Well, that we have got that figured. By the way, side note, I hate services that do login via magic links. It's just so stupid. Earlier today,
but I realized I hate it too. Like I really, really hate it. Well, we have codes that there is a OT, like a one-time code, and I really hate that too, for just like, because I have one password, like they just like put everything in and I'm logged in, and I don't really like it. But now that we're like changing platforms, like they built this on like we have this tiny Supabase instance that only does this like code. And I realized like the beauty of these things is that you can just like switch platforms completely without having to like migrate your like passwords, which sometimes is not possible depending on what service you've used and if it's in your own database and stuff. So like I see the beauty from like the provider or from the service
but that
side, but as a user I hate it so much.
Earlier today I needed to log into like StreamYard, the software you use to record this.
I know.
And it says like email, and I'm like, I don't know. Like, looked in one password, it's not in there. Weird. Then I basically had to open up my email inbox, search for past emails from them to figure out which of my email addresses this is using. Then enter the email address and then wait a minute until the email arrives. And then if you're lucky, macOS recognizes the code and just pre-fills it. If you're not lucky, then you just have to go in there, copy, paste, switch over, paste. It's just so annoying. And with one password and just regular email and password, it's just like one click, fills in, submits, done. And honestly, I don't mind if the default experience is like magic links and stuff like that, but for the love of God, like just give me an option to set a password and then just have me log in via password. That's so much faster. Okay,
I must say though, I do think our users it seems like they like it because what they get it on SMS. So I mean, we only have Norwegian customers, and they all have to leave their phone number, because that's the only way we can like routinely remind them of maintenance when we call them back for maintenance, because people like there's bankruptcy in most normal people's emails. Like mine is pretty bad too, but I have some digital skills that's helpful. So we, they log in, they just type in their phone number, and then they get the code to their phone, and most of them just do this on their phone. So I think it's kind of a good way for them, because I don't think a lot of them would remember their password, because you're never in our portal really. Well, we're hoping to funnel them more in there, but not so much that it's like a password you would know. So in that regards, like I think it works, and especially since we also want it to confirm their phone numbers so that we know that we can get a hold of them. If we need to like take back the bike, like we've talked about, if they don't pay, like we can't just block people. But I know, sorry, I was like totaled side story here on these things. But yeah, I as a user, like a technical user,
it's just annoying. And I mean, I get it, like
especially when the email never arrives. It's like you're like, I mean, that's come on.
I recently had one of those experiences where I like was on a website and it like for some reason it pre-filled my email address in the sign-up form, and I guess it automatically submitted it, but then I wasn't sure and didn't get any emails. And actually, I didn't want to log in. But then 2 days later, I got an email from the website, your login code. And I'm like, what?
Did you email them back and be like, we have a
I couldn't
service
be
called
bothered.
User List?
I couldn't be bothered. Yeah, maybe it's a sales opportunity, but yeah. And I mean, as you said, like for Wii, where you log in once in a year or so, fair enough. But like this, like the streaming software we use, I mean, use it at least every other week. Our CRM, the sales tool we use, like that we're supposed to use every single day, has the same mechanism. It's just super annoying. It's like, why?
Why?
Anyways,
back to the scheduled programming. What were you talking? Do we even remember what?
Yeah, we were talking about. I was talking about the redesign and that stuff.
Updating logos.
What was I? Updating logos,
media,
exactly. Yeah. So we need to do all of that. So yeah, there's still plenty of work to do, and I guess honestly, we should probably also record a video to showcase the new design, because I guess we're also planning a product hunt launch for this. So there's still plenty of work to do before we're done with this. But at least there's an end in the end is near, I guess. And I'm looking forward to that. The only other thing we did in terms of the product is last week we had one of our leads request a new API that we didn't have before, and we probably should have had before. So we now have an API to manage subscription preferences for users. So previously they would just get the emails, and in the footer there was a link to the subscription preferences, and then they can toggle stuff on and off as they like. But now you can also do the same thing via the API. So if you manage that internally, you can just like update their preferences on certain topics. And yeah, took us long enough to build this, but it was also a little bit of a pain to build, to be honest. Because it sounds easy enough, but then under the hood there's a lot of nuances and stuff. So it took a little longer, and it reminded me why I was avoiding this for the longest time.
Yeah, I get the feeling it wouldn't be.
Yeah. Other than that, I guess smooth sailing for the most part. I also started looking into finally doing partitioning for our largest table, the events table. And I got a local prototype working. That's actually pretty nice and works well. But that's only like maybe 10% of the story, because the real tricky part is like partitioning the production table. That's like hundreds of gigabytes without any downtime, and being able to just like keep that running in parallel. So that's still a part I need to figure out, and still probably going to be a little while before we do this. But
hard.
Still making progress on the database performance front as well.
Never ending story.
Never ending story for sure. Yeah.
Especially with the numbers that you have.
Yeah, there's always something to optimize, I guess. But again, like making progress, and but it's a little bit of a side project these days, because the focus is definitely on getting the redesign out. Yeah, that's about it. I guess nothing other too exciting stuff happening at the moment, I guess. What about you?
What about me?
Yeah, what about you?
What about me? School is back in session.
Woohoo!
It's a happy day or happy week.
Is this the first week?
This is the first week.
Nice.
So she was in circus school last week, like a summer program. But this is the first week of real school. Unfortunately, they don't have after school care anymore, because they are too old for that. They've aged out of the after school. Okay. So so we'll have to have other like plans for her in the afternoons, or I mean, she's old enough. She can figure that out, and we don't have to talk about that here, but she might like just pop in at any moment as we are recording this, because we haven't started organizing what to do. But that was also what I said, that okay, when she's back in school, Norway's back at work. So the plan for like the next week and a half is to contact everybody that we worked with on the audio guide ID, the location-based audio guide ID, which I've named Omvei, which means detour in Norwegian. Working title. So that's the plan for the next couple of days. It's just like emailing everybody and kind of like warming up those relationships again, and asking what they're using now, what are happening to the projects that they were doing a couple of years back, if there's any way we could kind of work together with them on our first versions of Omvei. So, and to gosh, if there's any interest, right, try to do a little bit of validation before doing too much work. So that's my promise. So ask me next time if I've done it.
Yeah, I will.
But I'm actually excited. Like before, I've been a little bit, I don't like kind of the sale where I haven't enjoyed kind of like this, because I would call this, it would be sales, right? Where you reach out,
Yep.
you like talk to people, and you have to like follow through and follow up. And, but now I'm like, oh, it will be nice, like talking to these people. I can like meet them for coffees around the town, like, a little bit of in real, like ERL relationship. You say, I think I'm not going to be shying away from it as much as I would have a couple of years back, where it's like, okay, I don't want to do that part, I just want to code, right? So I think that's
Right.
going to be I think I'm so kind of looking forward to it. And I actually met the mom of one of them on the road, because she turns out that she was my neighbor, one of the people. So I was like, how's your daughter doing? And like starting to like see where's she about, what is she doing these days, to have like a nicer introduction when I email her. So that was kind of nice. And for Outseta, I am the coolest kid in town. I've made an MCP server.
Oh,
So,
okay. Nice.
yes, together with all the AI kids, I'm like super, super forward here. No, but we've been talking about it a little bit back and forth, and I wanted to look into it, to the MCP server space. And I don't know if you've looked at it at all, Benedict.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Because it's like when you read about it in the tweets or in articles and stuff, it's like sounds like this like magical, super modern, like I don't know, it's like, it's AI and
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah, yeah.
super cool, and like we're gonna put so much money, and it's just an API around your API.
Yeah.
So dead simple. It's not even funny. It's so easy to make. So after like doing a little bit of, I think I saw one or two videos kind of on speed, trying to like, what is this thing? And I was like, really, is this it? But the difference, I would say, towards like a REST API is that they call it tools. So you have an API endpoint in your MCP server that is more kind of like jobs based, like what are you trying to do? And you can then do multiple REST API calls under the hood, or large business logic under the hood. But when I started making this for Outseta, I wanted to do jobs like, change plans for an account, like being able to go into any AI client like Claude, or you can even use Slack. I've heard like you can set up Slack as your interface. Anyway,
Interesting.
you'd be able to just like change plans. And okay, so to change plans, you have to, find the account for the person you mentioned, figure out what plans do you have, and then change the subscription from one plan to another. So I thought I would have to make a tool that like did a lot of that work. But what I realized, it's actually pretty good at figuring out which other tools it needs to make. So the only logic I would need for that is like have it I don't, or what I figured is I don't think I really need to have much like business logic in there. I just need the change plan logic, or change subscription, as we call it. I thought I would have to have much more, because as what I've seen is that I've created create plans. So you can create plan, list plans, get accounts, and all of those are just our REST API points, right? So to change plans, it will actually often go and be like, oh, I need to figure out what the plans are. I need to find that person or like that account. So it was less coding in business logic than I thought. So there might be something I'm missing here, because I see a lot of people saying like, oh, you can do multiple API calls, you can do business logic. But to me, so far, it seems like the AI kind of figures out like that it needs to go off and find the ID of a plan based on the name, and I don't have to put that into the tool. Anyway, so if you want to make an MCP server, do it you can do it in an hour for a couple of endpoints, and you can see what you get, because I plugged it into my local Cursor client, and it's been fun. I don't know how useful it is yet. We need to get it into the wild, but I was like, tell me something interesting about my account. And it's hooked up to a test account that I have, and AI being AI was like, oh, you're did you talk about this last time? And now it seems like
We did
I'm
not.
getting myself. No, because it was like this seems like a suitable mix between test account and real accounts, showing that you've done like a thorough QA testing. And it's like I have 60% what it deemed test accounts, because they're like test at or on a domain I use for testing, and there's like no lifetime value on any, like nobody's paid anything, but AI is like, you're doing so well with your business. No, I'm
Oh,
the AI hype is always fun, but I did actually find it pretty cool when I made the create plan tool, because now I can, I could do it in Cursor and can be like, make a $9.99 monthly plan. Or I could do things like, oh, I want to set up plans for my SaaS. And the AI was like, oh, you should, have 3 tiers and maybe these prices. And then you're like, no, I want different prices. And then you hit, and then you do a little bit back and forth. And then it goes off and it just like creates all the plans and plan family for me. And knowing the tool, like knowing our tool, like I know Outseta, I know where to click, I know where to like go to do these things. But for newer users that kind of want to get data in there pretty fast but are not technical, I think it can be a little bit useful for, especially for like setting up things in the beginning, because then you can go in afterwards and like tweak it through the UI when there's actually some data in there. At least I find it often easier to go into UI when I see some things
right.
that were made on my behalf. So it's going to be I don't know if, probably before next time, I'm hoping we'll get this deployed so that it's actually a server you can just like an MCP server you can just put into any AI client. At the moment, I just have it locally as a little npm package that it's kind of have on my machine, and I'm going to start by distributing it as an npm package so more technical users can just run it on their machine. But then you can also deploy it and have it as a proper like API server. Just it's an MCP server. But yeah, it also does like weird stuff, of course, because it's AI.
It's just AI, yeah.
Yeah. And in the beginning, it was pretty good at like asking me like, are these the things you want to make? But now it's just like, oh, I made 5 plans for you. I'm like, okay.
Maybe you need to flag them like internally somehow and then have a big reset everything the AI did button.
Perhaps. Yeah. So what I'm at least not doing, I'm not doing any delete tools.
Probably a smart idea.
But it's been fun, and a little, like we talked about before with AI, like I don't really know how you never know how your tool or your product is going to be used, but here especially I feel like I don't, like, what's my test plan? Like I can test its individual tool, of course, just with automated testing, but like what will people be asking and what will that result in? And it's a little like weird, from being used to like making, user interfaces that are very controlled, and then suddenly you're like, there's a infinite
Yeah, but
user
like
interface kind of.
I feel like the same is true for other APIs as well, though, because like you build APIs and then you imagine people using them one way and they tend to surprise you and do like all sorts of crazy stuff. So I guess it's similar in that regard that you
Mhm.
You give them the tools, and then they will just do random stuff with it.
Yes, we've had a person in support who is like really annoyed at I think I like our page limits or something, and then I was like, "But what are you trying to do?" And like, no, yeah, I'm trying to sync every account every 5 minutes. Going
Yeah,
through all accounts, and he's like, "This is not going to work when it scales." And I'm like, No, that's not an approach that you use when you scale. Like that's not how we sync
that's
to
not going. That's not going to work for a reason.
and that's why also our APIs kind of have those limits, because we don't want you to sync in that way. Like you need to use webhooks, and then maybe you'll have a job every now and then to make sure you like grab everybody. But even so, please only ask for, updated accounts. Like we haven't updated, and you can filter for updated last, 24 hours.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and but he was getting kind of not aggressive, but he was like being a little bit angry, which is you're
Right.
allowed in support tickets. But then I handed it off to one of the guys because I was like, I don't want to get in a kind of a fight with this guy, because I'm not a backend engineer. So I was like, please, can you guys, keep this,
Right.
take this conversation from here. And also sometimes I'm a little wary that if they like look me up and see that I'm a front end woman, they're like not going to listen to anything I say anyway. So it's like I wanted to hand it off to one of the back end dudes, so they can
Yeah.
they can battle it out without me. But what I really like about the tools is that you have to be super specific with your inputs. And I mean, most REST APIs, of course, document it, but you don't really. It's not that validation part of it is not something that the consumer of the API sees. While in the MCP server, you define a schema for the input, with validation rules and documentation for each input, so that the AI can like reason smarter, but also humans. Like this should be more standard with regular APIs too,
Right.
that kind of the validation of the data is more transparent, because then it's easier to kind of know what you want to put in. That's been fun to kind of like actually like standardize and document the data coming in. So yeah, MCP service. Ask me about them, dear listener, if you have any questions, and what I should make and what you could see it be used for, so that I can try and support that. Yeah, are you going to make an MCP service at user list?
Um, I don't know. Right now, I don't think it's a priority for us. That reminds me, I did work on something else as well. So one of the other things that happened in the last 2 weeks is that we brought back. So circling back a little bit, when we had campaigns like linear campaigns with delays and stuff like that, basically from day one we also had campaign templates for like different use cases like payment, reminders, onboarding, stuff like that. And you were able to just like create a new campaign, pick a template, and basically get it pre-populated with some dummy content and a couple of emails. But a couple of months ago, we retired campaigns. So for new users, those are not even visible anymore. And we didn't have workflow templates. So what I built in the past 2 weeks as well, as a quick side quest, I guess, was workflow templates where you still content-wise they're exactly the same thing as before with the campaigns, but now instead of campaigns they create visual workflows. And in that process, I once again dabbled around a little bit with like having AI customize the templates to the use case. And it worked surprisingly well, but ultimately not well enough to ship. Because like, I don't know, I tested it with the payment reminder flow and told it, hey, my company is this and that, like a real company, real customer. Here's the template. Please customize this to match my use case or like my company. And it got like the content okay-ish, right? It was like talking, you cannot do the thing anymore that the tool was is used for, and please update your card and all of that. But then in the details, it did break down relatively quickly, because like all of the links to any of the pages, be it docs or like settings or all of it, they were all just way off. Which, okay, fair enough. How should it know? But also the email formatting was off in places. So it's one of those cases where like you get a lot of emails, but then they are all so broken that you need to
Yes.
fine tune them all. And I mean, this was an experiment. Didn't spend a lot of time on it, but it became clear that if you want to really do this, it will be quite a big engineering lift to build, like, figure out a better way to get more context in there, so it maybe gets the content better, maybe figures out links better. So that's one aspect of it. And then on the flip side, the generated stuff just needs to be have like more guardrails, right? Like we figure out, it's actually not mixing Markdown and HTML and stuff like that. Just make sure that the content is actually up to standards. And yeah, both of those things, I guess, are interesting challenges, but also a ton of work to get right, I guess. So yeah, for now, on the back burner. Maybe we'll get to it at some point, but for now, as I said, redesign priority number one.
We have like a really annoying thing where our pagination is named in a way where the AI, even when I like documented it in the tool description, in the in like the input for each input, I documented it. The AI do not want to do it. I ended up renaming them and then like mapping them to what we call them, just to see if that worked, and that does work. But we also want, but then I realized like one of the ways that the MCP server will be used probably is that you hook it into your development environment so that it can do some requests for data to better inspect like what is the data coming back from this API. So if I do a lot of transformations on it, like it will not be helpful for somebody using this server while they're developing. So I am gonna go back and try to see if I made it work now with renaming the variable or like the inputs. What would I have to do with documentation and keep the original names? Because we do page based. So, you get one page with 100 records and then another page with 100 records. And so our offset is the page number. And then we have limit is like how many records on the page. And we've had this in support a lot before I made the MCP server too, because people are using AI, and the AI wants the offset to be offset of records.
Oh, so offset is not 100. Offset is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yes, our offset is 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, that is admittedly a little bit confusing. Yeah.
So and it's documented. No, nobody reads that, of course, and it's a way to like I've seen this in APIs before, but I'm used to the new, like I guess the newer best practices to use the number of records or call it like page number. That's what I did. Like when I call it page number, we're all good. But I'll have to try to like really try to make it understand it's a page number. But without renaming, and it will be interesting to see if I can get any wording in there where it like consistently, at least when I'm testing, will actually understand that that's how our pagination works. But it's been a real challenge in support a lot for people that like we are not getting all the records. When we say offset 2000, there's no records, and it's like no, because that's page 2000. You don't have that many customers.
Right. Yeah. Admittedly, that is a little bit confusing.
It's super confusing. And even I've documented it, and even when I give that to the AI with like examples, it's just like, oh, offset this records. Like it doesn't even register the documents.
Yeah.
So at this point, I'm like, do we need to change the API? Because these are one of the things that are showing up again and again in support, where it's like, even though we documented, in many places, still not gonna help, because the AI is still, gonna tell them to do
Right.
it, and then it doesn't work. And if it had just been inputs, we could have just said like, okay, we'll just accept the page number. We will just call it page number instead, and then the AI understands it, and then we just internally map it to the offset. But then you return the data, then you have to make sure you return it with the same inputs that the
Right.
names, because we have the metadata with like what page is this, and but it could be possible. But I've seen more and more people in our space being like, okay, you end up like changing the way you do things because you just can't get
Yeah.
the AI to understand how it's done. And maybe the humans didn't, but they didn't complain as like righteously as when they have the AI
Maybe the
tell them
humans
that.
struggled but figured it out eventually, and then it's
Yes.
one of those cases where like, okay, that's just this odd case where it doesn't make any sense, but I'll accept it.
But I've learned it, and now I know.
Yeah.
So yeah. But it's interesting times.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah,
And
that's
I
it
booked
from my
MicroConf tickets.
Woohoo! Yeah, nice. See you there. Who else is coming? Tell us. We want to know. Maybe we can do a slow and steady meetup or something like that.
Yes. So this is MicroConf Europe.
Yes, MicroConf
specific.
Europe. Yep.
Yes.
Awesome. Looking forward to seeing you again. It's been a while. 2 years.
I'm bringing Ula this time, no kid, and we're actually going to do a week in Istanbul.
Oh, nice. So yeah, that's a good idea. Have a good time there, I guess. Well, then
see you around.
See you around, but see you again in 2 weeks when we hopefully are ready to launch the new redesign.
Yay! See you around the interwebs.
See you. Bye.